What's up, gang and internet? Denny here, and I just want to talk about this one piece of paper, this InBody, and all the information it can give me, how it's going to drive my decisions in the near term and in the long term. How this scan really will determine my strategy for nutrition and somewhat even training for the rest of the year. But also some of the nuances and some of the catches that come with looking at a scan like this. So let's start down here. These are really the most important metrics that I pay attention to. Where's my weight trending? What's my skeletal muscle mass trend? What's my body fat percentage trend? So as you can see, starting back in March last year, I was preparing for a triathlon that happened in September. And so my goal was to lose weight. So I went from 204 all the way down to 191, 192, and got my body fat down to 9.3%, according to this scan. And, I would say whether it was 9, whether it was 10, 11, doesn't matter. This is just me knowing that my body fat was going down while retaining as much muscle as possible. I ended this 9.3 with 101.9 pounds of muscle, so really almost exactly the same. And we'll talk about why, how this can vary just depending on what you eat and that type of thing. Now, what you'll see is this was basically right before the race. This was August. I raced 1 month later. I would say my body was about the same on race day. And then what the heck happened here? From 192 pounds up to 209 pounds, and yes, that was accurate. Losing muscle and 9% body fat to 19% body fat. What is going on here? Okay, well, during this time period, my wife had a baby. We had a newborn in home. And yeah, I was not getting a lot of sleep. I was not getting a lot of exercise. I was doing what I can, and I did just completely abandon my diet. In fact, I was using food somewhat as a drug to just cope with the stress. But that was only December. December 31st. And then now, just a month later, I'm all the way back down to 13% body fat. Gained 6 pounds of muscle, and lost 3 pounds. It's like, okay, well, this makes sense, losing 3 pounds in a month. That's about right. That's about what I did. But how did I gain all this muscle and lose all this body fat? Well, the truth is that I probably didn't lose all of that muscle. How we should probably look at that is just to erase this, right? And just know that some bad trend happened in the middle here, but ultimately this is my trend. I've been gaining weight and gaining muscle and gaining some body fat, okay? Now, it's important to point out what I call these anomaly scans, because the scan is hypersensitive to the water content in your muscles. Let's just call it that, the water content in your muscles. And you can influence that in a lot of ways. This was after 2 workouts, actually. I woke up this morning, and I went to Camo. I did my power clean workout. Then I went over to Genesis, and I did a machine circuit, and then I swam. So what the scan is seeing is my muscles full, okay? I've also been on a creatine loading phase, so I've been taking 10 grams of creatine every day. I've cleaned up my diet. I'm eating a lot more protein, eating a lot more carbs. So my muscles are full. They're full of blood. They're full of glycogen. They're full of creatine. And that's really what's going on here. Maybe I gained 2 pounds of muscles, or maybe I just filled my muscles with 2 pounds of water, creatine, and carbohydrate and really haven't gained any muscle at all. But that's the reason for this drastic difference. The percent body fat is hypersensitive to this muscle reading. So it's important to look at all things because we're just looking at a trend. I mean, ultimately, if this trends up to 110 pounds, let's say, it's fair to say that, yes, I did gain some actual muscle tissue. Um, and the higher this goes up, if the weight stays the same, the lower this number goes down. Now, that's exactly my point. So, my long term goal for the year is I'm doing the Worlds for age group sprint triathlon in October. Now, years go fast, so it's important to keep that into consideration. You don't want to just act like, well, it's a problem to worry about tomorrow. But my goal for the race is to be as strong and lean as possible. Okay, so I had in mind this idea, maybe I should get down to 170 pounds. But if we look up here, my lean body mass, so this is if I had no fat on my body, is 179.5 pounds, right? It's because I have 27.3 pounds of body fat mass, okay? So I do want this number to go down because any extra fat, you can make an argument for buoyancy in the water. Fat's kind of good for that, but I'm only swimming 750 yards and I'm going to wear, a suit. So I'm not worried about the buoyancy all that much. But on the bike and on the run, that any extra weight is a big deal. My coach told me for every pound I lose, it's 2 seconds off of my mile splits, which that's not a big deal, 1 pound. But if I lose 10 pounds, it's 20 seconds per mile. That's 1 minute off my 5K run. If I lose, 20 pounds, you double that, right? And so it does start to compound. And the same can be said for the bike, especially if it's a hilly course. The bike's kind of weird. It's a much bigger effect on the uphills, the flats, and the downhills, not such a big deal. But I want to be basically as light as I can be in my body. But I still value strength. I value muscle. And I think that, goes into the fitness aspect of it. Yeah, I could be super light, but if I don't have muscular, strong legs, I'm not going to be as powerful on the bike. If I don't have a strong upper body, I'm not going to be as powerful in the water, etc. And there's a little bit of a vanity effect. Honestly, I just like being muscular. Yeah, I want to win worlds, but also I want to win worlds looking damn good. And plus, my wife just tells me when I look too skinny, she doesn't like that. And I want her to support my goals. And so I have to maintain a certain physique, whatever. And I'm not opposed to that physique. But so that with that logic in mind, really right now, I don't necessarily care about losing weight. I want to focus on this muscle building because if I can get this muscle as high as possible, maybe I can get back to 9%. I mean, if we see how quickly it goes from 19 to 13, maybe I can get back to 9% while still over 200 pounds. That would be awesome. The more muscle you have on your body, the easier it is to actually lose fat. So it's, what's the word? Not a domino effect, but, I want to just make it as easy as possible later, right? So basically, the more muscle you have, the higher this basal metabolic rate goes. And it's not crazy. It's not going to add an extra 1,000 calories to my basal metabolic rate, but it might add an extra 200, 300, which if anybody's ever ate, a restricted diet, the difference between eating 1,800 calories a day and eating 2,000 kind of feels like a big deal sometimes. It's an extra snack. So I want to jack this muscle up as high as possible first, get as lean as I can with the most amount of mass on my body, and then I can make the decision later, right? Again, maybe I get to 9% and 200 pounds and I decide, you know what, that's fine. That's my race weight and I'm hitting all my times I want to hit, fine. But maybe I can get to 6%. I don't know. I've always thought like 9 was kind of the scary zone for me, anything below 10, but maybe I can get to 6% and weigh 190 pounds. Maybe I get to 190 pounds and weigh 6%, and then I decide, okay, it's late in the season. Now it's okay to lose a little bit of muscle. By the way, you will lose muscle as you continue losing weight. Ultimately, the nature of endurance training, which I'm going to be doing a lot of, the running, the biking, the swimming, I'm going to lose some muscle in the process. So that's fine because I want to be lighter, but I don't want to lose too much. I want to stay as strong as possible. So the goal is to build as much muscle right now. And that really should apply to a lot of people, which is why I love this InBody scan, because it's weird. Sometimes you have to go up before you come down. If you focus on that muscle building aspect, it makes the fat loss a lot easier and the diet's a lot less restrictive. So don't panic if you see the scale go up, but your muscle's also going up. That's a good thing. And also don't panic if you have one of these weird anomaly readings. Look at your life. Have you had a lot of stress? Or has your sleep been crappy? That's what I was going through, right? No sleep. How have your workouts been, right? Obviously, how's your diet been? All these factors can make for an anomaly scan. It's no big deal. What I recommend is just get a good week under your belt and then go back. Now, last but not least, if you stuck around and you're in the nutrition challenge with me and you want to kind of rig this, here's what you got to do to get the best reading possible. You got to eat the day before, you got to eat carbs, okay? Then you're going to want to go work out and get as much blood in your muscles as possible. And then you're going to want to go and eat carbs again. By the way, you should also be doing a creatine stacking regimen for 2 weeks. Do 10 grams a day leading up to that scan. You show up to that scan with creatine full in your muscles, with carbs full in your muscles, also maybe some sodium. So like when I really used to want to rig this up, I would have ramen noodles. So I would go to the ramen shop and just like the salty broth and lots of carbs. And then like 2 hours later or an hour later, go get this reading. And you can jack these numbers up. Hey, it is a contest, so no shame in doing that. But you can only cheat it to the extent that you set yourself up for success in the first place with good training and diet leading up. So yeah, there's a lot to be said here. I mean, that's like the bare minimum, and that was 12 minutes. So appreciate y'all. Peace.